Hello and welcome back to another episode of Slick Willy Fly. So tonight, we're going to make a little bait fish. And this is on a size 2 stainless steel hook. And this little bait fish right here, it's going to resemble a little finger mullet or some kind of a white bait. And this sucker is going to be deadly on those inshore fish. So let's just jump in on it. So in the hook, what I have is a size 2 stainless steel hook. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of lead on this hook. I don't count wraps. So I'm going to say about, 6, 7, 8 wraps maybe. It's not really anything that I've ever been too worried about. One wrap more, one wrap less, I don't really think makes that big a difference. So I've pre-prepped a little bit of craft fur, and I have my zap here, and I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of zap on the lead because I don't want it to go anywhere. And then while the zap is still wet, I'm going to go ahead and put a base of thread. And what I'm using today is a Beavis 6.0. It's a good strong thread. And we're just going to go ahead and put a base down. And the zap is going to really make that just stay exactly where we want it. Can cut this tag off. And we can talk a little bit about this fly before I get going because I want the zap to cure a little bit. So what I'm going to do a little bit different on this particular fly that I didn't do on the other one is I'm going to give it a little hot colored tail. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and give it this little pink tail. So this is just a basic fly. And all I'm going to do is add a little bit of a pink tail to this. I think a lot of times I like having a little hot spot. So it's simple. The tail is going to be my length, my overall length. And it's going to a little bit, maybe a little too much zap. Just going to smear it out a little. It's going to be my overall fly length. I have one here that I can almost use as a guide, but it's not really that big a deal if it's a little bit long, a little bit shorter. I don't particularly like my flies to be overly long. I want the fish to be able to just gobble them right up. So what's my tail? I'd say about 2 hook shanks. So that's a hook shank. And that's a hook shank. So there's my tail. So I'm going to strip away the rest of these feathers. Trim this up a little bit. So now it looks like this. So now what I have to decide is, do I want the feather to lay flat or do I want it to be basically in the knife edge position? And I think for this particular fly, I'm going to go with a knife edge position. I don't know that it really makes a difference, but I just think it looks really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on a couple wraps. Check that I like the orientation, which I do. And I'm going to go ahead and lock this in. And this tag can get trimmed off. Now, another thing that I can do, and I'm going to do, is I can come back to the feather and put one wrap under. And I think that really just locks it in good. Nice. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give this fly a little bit of body. And in this case, I'm going to use a little white chenille. And very simple, basic white chenille. And I just expose the thread. Have a sip of my cocktail. Saturday night. It's blowing like crazy. Not sure if I'm going to be able to go fishing tomorrow, but I can make flies. So I'm going to go ahead and give my little thread here a spin so it curls the way I want it to curl. Just like that. I'm going to lock it in nice and hard, and I'm going to bring the thread up to, I don't know, halfway up the hook shank. Now remember that when you put your chenille on, you should go in the same direction as the thread. I'm going to do a reverse tie, so I don't really need to go very far with this. This is just to give it a little bit of body so that when the fly is in the water and the craft fur becomes a little bit see-through, that I have a little body that has a little bit of shine, a little something to it. Perfect. I'm going to trim this off so I blocked the chenille and I can get the chenille out of the way. Nice. So now I am going to give it a little bit of flash. And in this case, what I'm going to use today is I'm going to use one strand of black Flashabou. Probably hard to see in the video, but it is one strand of black Flashabou, which I've folded in half. And now I will fold in half again. I'm going to go ahead and lay this on top and lock it in. Beautiful. And that little tag can get trimmed off. If any of the flash is too long, we could trim it after. I don't like trimming it too early. I want to see exactly how long the fly ends up being. So now I'm going to take a strand of Flashabou. And I'm going to repeat the process. Alright, folding it in half. And in this particular instance, I'm going to go ahead and put it on at the first fold. Then I'm going to bend, I'm going to fold over the remainder. Just like that. And this Flashabou and this black flash, and oh, this was, by the way, this was Mirage Opal, the second Flashabou I used. It will show through when this flies in the water. Okay, so now what am I going to do? I'm going to go ahead and work on the bottom first. I've pre-prepped a little bit of white craft fur. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on facing forward because it's going to be a reverse tie. So I'm going to think about my total length. It's about right. And I'm going to go ahead and apply the craft fur on the bottom of the hook. And I want this craft fur to really stay on the bottom of the hook. I don't want this to wrap around. So I'm going to do 2 loose wraps, making sure that the craft fur is on the bottom of the hook. Pull tight and lock it down. Now the remaining tag, I give it a little spin, and I'm going to go ahead and carefully cut it off. So that's the bottom. For the top half, I'm going to use a little bit of gray craft fur, which is also pre-prepped. And this will be a little easier because I want it to be about the same length as the white. A couple of loose wraps, making sure that it's where I want it. And lock it in. Now, most of the time, I would remind you that in a hollow fly, you need to take the thread all the way forward. But in this particular fly, I want to leave a little bit of space at the front of the fly for making a head. And I also want to change thread color. So we're going to make a large half hitch. Just like that. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. I give it a little touch of zap. Before I do that, I want to get my next thread ready. Guess I'm going to go with red. This spool's nearly empty, but that's okay because I don't need a lot. You could do this without even changing spools. You could use a marker and turn that white to red. But I have red, so what the heck, why not? So now what we're going to do is we're going to get our push tool. We want to make sure that we have the gray on top and the white under. We're going to go ahead and push it back, capturing all the fibers. And when you feel good that you have it the way you want it to look, and you should take your time always. Remember, you pull your thread forward before you start making that thread dam. And basically, the fly will fish exactly the way it is right now. But I am going to put some eyes on it. So the next step for me is getting some fine scissors and trimming away any fibers that are going the wrong way. Quickly and carefully. Just like that. And this little fly, I promise you, that little pink hot spot there in the middle, this will definitely fish. This thing looks wicked. that black will shine through. The Mirage Opal will shine through. This fly is gonna look phenomenal when it's wet. After this fly cures, I will put it in a little warm water and I will shape it, and it's just gonna look awesome. In fact, you'll know how it looks because it will be the thumbnail that you saw before you selected this video. All right, so now what's the next step? The next step is some eyeballs. In this case, I'm going to use 5mm yellow eyes, 3D eyes. I got a brand new rum that I knew I was going to like. It's a brand of rum that I really enjoy, but it's a new, oh, it's not new, it's new for me. It's one of their varieties that I had never tasted. I just love it. It's delicious. So let's get on some eyes here. So the eyes, they come with a little bit of adhesive on them naturally, which is nice. Usually it works. Hopefully it'll work today. So I used the hook eye as a guide for how far back I want to place the eye. And then I really try my best to look at them carefully. You know, you need to just take your time with this and make sure you like the way everything looks. I think they look good where they are. I think I got a couple of wild fibers though. It's hard to see them sometimes. You need just the right angle of the light. All right. So now I'm going to get a little bit of UV resin. And I'm going to go ahead and start underneath. And I'm going to start with a little bit of light coat just to lock in between the eyes. So I'm going to go all the way across the bottom, eyeball to eyeball. Just trying to lock them in. And once I'm satisfied, I zap it. And now we repeat the process on the top. Now, when I build heads, I don't build them like all in one shot. I do layers. All right, so the next spot is I go to the eyeball themselves, and I'm gonna put a layer just off the edge. I start with a little bit right on the center of the eyeball, and then I start working it so that it comes off the edge. And I lock that in. Something I like to do that I've mentioned before is when I use my lamp, I try to change the angle so that I feel like it cures better when I do it that way. Okay, so now we'll do the opposite side eye. Same routine. And remember that when you're working with resin, you're really not in a rush. Put the fibers where they need to be before you get the lamp out. Because once you zap it, they're not moving. Alright, so now I feel good that the eyes cannot possibly get ripped off, even if it's a toothy critter. So now my goal is just to make a nice shaped head. I don't really want too big a head, but I mean it has to have some shape. So now I like to spin my fly quite a bit. I let gravity do its deal. I spin in both directions. I make sure that the eye of the hook is open. And we have a great craft fur finger mullet that is going to sink. It has enough lead that it's going to sink. It's not going to sink like a stone, but I'm also not planning on fishing this in super deep water. This is for, you know, I would say at the most, I could fish this on a grass flat that's, 5-6 feet deep, looking for some sea trout. Or I could fish this for bass or perch. I think that this fly would be equally at home in fresh water as it is in salt water. Even though my intention for this fly is salt water, I could totally see this thing working in fresh water. I'm sure that if I take this to a still water lake and I put this fly in front of a rainbow trout, that there's a strong possibility that I'm going to be hooking up to a rainbow trout. So that's the fly. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you hit the like and subscribe. Had a ton of fun doing this with you tonight, Saturday night. I'm trying to give you an idea of what it's gonna look like once once it cures and I can put it under the sink or get some warm water, it's hard. I guess it's hard to see, but you'll see it in the thumbnail. But that's a wicked little flower right there. And that pink is going to show through just enough. The flash will show through just enough. This is going to be deadly. Deadly in the water. So I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. It really does help. And have a cocktail with me. One of these days, I'm going to have to tell you which are the rums that I like. I'm a little bit of a rum snob, I would say. Rum is my preferred drink. And I'm picky about what I like. But sure, we'll do that one day. Thanks again for watching. See you on the next video.